sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box. Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
And hello. Good evening. Welcome to Dave's Tackle Box. It's Sunday the 10th of March 2013. It's Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. And for all you daughters and sons, I hope you contacted your mothers. Which reminds me, straight after this show, I will call my mother. Damn, how could I forget that? Yes, as I say, welcome to Dave's Tackle Box. If you're not sick of seeing me this week, we've got quite a few things coming up for you tonight as well. I got a new mod, well, a new to me mod, and it had a slight problem with the switch, so there's a bit of VT on me sorting that out. I've spent some time moving stuff around, so I'm in new scenery here, and we're going to have a little look at how that panned out. We're going to be joined by Tim, and we've got a list of little topics that we're going to whiz through there. I've got news of some upcoming meets. There's all the stuff you would normally expect to find in Dave's Tackle Box. So before we get cracking, let's run the titles. So here we go. Right, so you, as I said, you'd probably notice I'm sitting in a slightly different position to normal, which may not seem like a big deal to you, but to me it was a hell of a big deal. In fact, if you watched the Haze Hour on Thursday and VT Talk the day before that, you'll have noticed that I've been moving around a little bit and things have been appearing and disappearing on the walls behind me. I needed to have a big sort out of this room. Now, so I've spent a lot of the week moving stuff around, and hopefully this looks a little bit better. It certainly feels a little bit more comfortable than it did. I'm not all cramped up and face against the camera. I've got like a little table for my beer and everything, that's got to be better, hasn't it? But what I did is I got a bunch of questions and comments, you know, pretty much since we started doing VT TV. People have been saying, you know, what's involved, what do you need in terms of hardware and space, and how do you do it? So what I thought I'd do is just for a few minutes, I thought I'd throw together this little VT. So as I was like putting the final pieces in place earlier, well, not quite final, but almost final pieces in place earlier, I picked a camera up and I thought, let's have a little tour of these illustrious studios. So hopefully you'll enjoy this. A roll VT. Since we started doing Vapor Trails TV, I've been asked a number of times and read a number of comments about, you know, how we do it. You know, what sort of gear do you need? What kind of space do you need? A lot of people have commented that they don't have enough space in their house to do something like this, and I can empathise with that because neither do I. But if you watched VT Talk or the Haze Hour earlier this week, you will have noticed reference, I made a reference a couple of times to having the studio sort of half built, because I've been moving stuff around, and indeed got a slight change of scenery. I've basically I've got a fair bit of gear now, and unfortunately I don't have a dedicated space to use as a studio. My studio is this room that I'm standing in, and with a camera in one hand and a microphone in the other, and simply it has to function as my general sort of man cave den. It has to function as an office when I'm working from home, if I get that kind of contract, and of course the studio as well. So I can't just set it up. You know, I need a desk and I need sort of normal stuff. There's also a fair bit of storage going on in here. It's a very tiny room. It's got a window at one end and about 10 feet away the door on the other side. The walls, I'd say, are about 7 feet apart. So I don't have a great deal of space at all. But I think I've come up with a formula that lets me use it best as I can. So what I've got now is this sort of setup where I've cleared this corner, and as you might have noticed during the week, I put my mods and stuff onto a shelf there. That's freed up a bit of desk space, because my desk was a mess, as anybody who's spoken to me in a Google Hangout or Skype would bear out. My desk is legendary, but if I just flip this camera around, you can see, look, I've actually tidied up the desk rather a lot. But for those then who are interested in what we use to broadcast, I'll talk you through it rather quickly. I'm currently using 3 cameras. There's this one here, I call this one camera 1, and that gives me the wide shot of the studio that you're probably going to see me in shortly after watching this. Camera 2 is actually in my hand at the moment, but normally it lives on this tripod here, and that gives me a close-up shot of a similar angle. Camera 3 is the definition of overkill. This is my big camera. It's currently pointing at this little table because today is show day and I'm starting to set everything up later for tonight. So if I do any close-up kind of shots, then that's the camera I'll use for that. It is overkill, but it's there, so I might as well use it. All of these cameras share one feature. They have a HDMI output. You can see a HDMI cable out of there. There's one coming out of there as well. And those cables are all fed into this thing on the windowsill, which is a switch. It's a HDMI switcher, which I can control with software. So that allows me to switch between the different cameras. And what's going into each camera feed you can see here. So like if I home in on this one, it gets kind of because I've got the one in my hand connected to it. Below that is Wirecast, so what comes out of the switch goes into this software. So this is pretty much the view I've got of what's being broadcast, and that's what sends everything up to the internet so you can stream it. I've got 2 more monitors because this monitor here is attached to my broadcast machine. I'll typically have a Skype session going there so that I can stay in touch with Kat and Dave and whoever's behind the scenes, and they'll be telling me turn your audio up, turn your audio down, or get off the air or whatever's appropriate. At the moment I've been editing some video on that screen, but pretty soon, when it gets to showtime, that will be showing the playback. So I'll have on there, I'll have the Vapor Trials TV site so I can see chat and just see that the video's going out. Big lights. So these I've had for a long while, but I didn't have any space to put them in, so I got one up there which generally lights up the room. I can probably demonstrate. got another one there to try and avoid shadows and what have you. They don't have to give off some heat. So the top monitor there shows me what's going into Wirecast. Wirecast shows me what's going up to the internet, and in there is where I can select to play VTs and ad breaks and titles and credits and flip to people in Skype calls and all the rest of it. And down here, this is how I control what's going on. I'm using this little wireless keyboard thing here because I'm sitting quite away from the main console. And then with the iPad I can control the HDMI switcher. That laptop there is the one that I will bring in guests, so tonight that could be Tim, not sure, but if I have a Skype guest, they come in on that laptop. They're also connected to the HDMI switch, that's how I get them into the broadcast machine. And then the audio here mixes my audio, the laptop audio and the desktop audio all back into Wirecast, so everything that goes out we can do our best to try and balance the sound levels and so on. Nice microphone, not using that currently for logistical reasons, i.e. the only way I can get it in shot is to completely obscure myself. So that was a sort of whistle-stop tour of DTB Studios. It's, as you can see, it's fairly sophisticated, but it's not too obtrusive or big. The chair doubles as my desk chair. I just wheel it back over here to the desk when I've finished. And the floor space that I've got is this. That's it. But it works, for the most part it works. So I'm thinking of doing something with that corner behind me just to make it a slightly more interesting scene. And I've got a slight problem. You'll notice from this camera shot that the colour of the wall is very similar to the colour of my skin, so that can be a bit confusing for the camera sometimes. So I'm going to do something about that corner, I think, and make it a slightly more sensible colour, I think. But anyway, I hope that that's useful. I hope that that's answered the questions that were asked about how we do it and what we do. Obviously don't want to go into too much detail in this show. This is just, you know, because it's not about that. But if you've got any more questions, just ping me on the forum.vapetrials.tv, send me a PM, I'll do my best to answer, or just get in touch with us in the usual ways, it's not hard. And hope you enjoyed it. Cheers. As if by magic, I'm sitting in the chair again. Yeah, I hope you found that interesting, some of it. Yeah, there is a lot of tech there. I saw some of the comments in chat, but actually most of it's quite intuitive to use. All the fun is in setting it up. Once it's done, it's just knowing which buttons to press, or not, as the case may be. A couple of other questions that cropped up in chat there that I must address. One is, my flies are done up, Jeff. Although you did make me check, so well done for that. Which camera? That camera. The lights are not to grow the beard. Yes, there is grey in the beard. I'm not sure whether it's down to experience or a pizza I had when I was in my early 20s and I got the hot cheese all down here, but you get the point. So yeah, so hopefully you found that interesting. And yes, the little mini keyboard is quite useful. That's what I'm steering everything with at the moment. So there you go. So we can move on now. We can do stuff about vaping, if you like. And I want to mention a couple of vape meets that are coming up. So let's start with that. Yeah, I'll just roll it. I'll just roll it. Here we go. Vape meets. I just saw one last question there about the keyboard. It is a RII Tech. I got it off Amazon. It was about 20 quid. It's got a laser pointer built into it as well, but I'm not sure what that'll do if I shine it at the camera. Let's see. There we go. So yeah, it's quite useful. Means I don't have to stretch yet another cable from my desktop keyboard over. There was another question I saw as well. I think it was Mad Ray asked, is all those screens, are they attached to a laptop or a PC? 3 of them attached to a PC, the other one's attached directly to the switch. So that's literally just a monitor so I can see which camera shot is feeding into the PC. And then I use this laptop here. Tim will be on this laptop a little bit later, but not yet. Those vape meets that I just ran, if you're having a meet and you want it included in there, just let me know. Try and let me know before the day of broadcast. That always helps, but not too far ahead of it, else I'll forget. So Saturday's a good day, basically. Saturday or Sunday morning is a good time to tell me if you want your vape meet included in the meet roll call. Bear in mind that 2 of those meets, the one in Edinburgh and the Knees Up, are this coming Saturday. I can't go to either, and I'm quite sad about that. But for those of you who maybe you're thinking about going to the Knees one but can't make your mind up, here's a teaser. There you go. That's next Saturday, the 16th of March in South Shields, at the place that took us in when the other place threw us out last time. So nice place, nice people, good cheap food as well. It was good. I had steak, and I think I'm pretty sure I had something in custard after the steak as well, and got changed from £1 or something like that. I seem to remember it was cheap anyway. But go to that one, guys. It's a great crowd. I know the crowd that are there. It's going to be good fun. In fact, I might be just about the only VTTV presenter not there. So I think most of the others are making it. But there you go. Anyway, we need to move along. Still to come tonight, we've got a look, quite a detailed look at the GP Paps switch. Because I had a problem with it, needed to fix it. And of course, Tim. But before that, let's take our first break. And I'll see you in about a minute and a half or something. Still mastering this keyboard.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tap Box. Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tap Box.
And welcome back. Now, you might remember a few weeks ago, probably a month and a bit ago or something now, I went down to a meet in South Wales. And while I was there, I met a guy called Tony. And Tony used to have this thing. It's a GP Paps. And I tried my Fagatti on it. And I tried to buy it from him. And he said, over my dead body or something like that. So I shot him and no. He did hint that he was going to be selling it. He was waiting for a new mod and that arrived. And he contacted me about a week ago and said, do you want it? I said, yes. I sent him some money and here is the GP Paps. He did tell me that it might need a bit of a clean up. And I said, that's fine. I like taking things apart. And this is the story of taking the GP Paps apart. It turned out to be a little bit more involved than I thought, actually. But get comfortable, watch this. Hi, I'm Dave, and this is the GP Paps mod. It comes with an 18650 size tube. You can also get an 18500 and an 18350 size tube. I picked it up used, second hand, at least second hand, from a guy I met at the South Wales mini meet called Tony, and I eventually persuaded him to part with it. He sold it to me. He told me that it needed, the switch needed a clean and he hadn't got the tools to do it, so would I mind doing that myself? And I said no. Very happy with it, very happy with the price I paid for it. Knew I had to clean the switch, and it turned out that I didn't need to clean the switch because I've been using it for the last few days, I would say. I bought it specifically for my Fagatti, but we'll have a look at that in a minute as well. But before we do anything else, I've got to sort this switch out because it's bugging me. What's happening is that although it fires just fine, the locking mechanism is locking in the wrong places, basically. So if I use this little collar, this little wheel here, to put the switch into usable mode and then try and unscrew it to lock the switch again, I'm finding that it's actually unscrewing the whole switch mechanism from the bottom of the battery, and it's bugging me. I think there's some Noah locks and stuff down inside it. So before we do anything else, let's take it apart and see if we can clean it up a bit. Right, so the problem that I'm going to try and fix is with this switch. Like I say, it works, but it's a bit sticky, especially the locking thread. So what's happening is if I open that thread up, even sort of gently, so I can use the device, it at times is quite difficult to undo without unscrewing the whole bottom cap, and that's just too much of a faff. But I can see inside that it could do with a bit of a clean. Looks like there might have been some Noah locks or something on this at some point. And the other thing I notice is that I'm not the first person to have a go at this. There's a little bit of scratching and what have you inside the cap. This black Delrin insulation piece is a bit scuffed and what have you. There's nothing badly damaged, it's fine, but I'm going to try and give it a clean. Now, I had a look on a couple of forums to see if anybody had been here before me, and of course they had, and it seems that the best way to approach this is to get this Delrin piece out first. So that's what I'm going to try and do. Now, one thing I read was that somebody teased it out with a dental pick or something, because I need to be very careful, obviously, because I don't have any replacement parts. So if I damage this, then I'm kind of stuffed. So after much messing, much fiddling about, I've decided that the best way to try and get this Delrin section out is using a small screwdriver and levering it out like this. Now, it is obviously damaging the Delrin very slightly, it's scratching it up, but I don't think it's going to stop it working. And it's an internal part that will be hidden when I'm using it, and I'd much rather have a free, properly functioning switch than a pristine piece of Delrin, which it wasn't to start with anyway. So I have taken the decision to carry on with this method for a little while. It is slowly lifting that piece of plastic out of the switch. Trying to be quite patient, which is not my strong suit. but it looks as though it's almost out. In fact, there it is. So I managed to do that. You may be able to see that the plastic is a little bit scratched up on the top, but it isn't misformed, or, you know, it isn't sort of broken in any kind of way. I might just give that a little bit of a clean up with a bit of sandpaper or a small file or something, just to make it look neater before I put it back in. But with that out, the next little challenge is to remove this clip that is around the top of the positive connection, which you can see has had some wear on this device. If I release the button mechanism so I can press it, you might be able to see better. There's a little retaining clip in there. Now I've got circlip pliers, but this isn't actually a proper circlip. It's just a retaining clip. So again, I'm going to try and tease that out with a screwdriver, I guess. Well, as you can see, this is proving quite difficult to shift. There were already a bunch of scratches around the switch, and I've added a few more. But I'm starting to lose my patience with it now. But if they'd used a circlip, then it would have been easier to just get that off using the right tool now. But I can't see an easy way of doing this at all, to be honest. But we've come this far, so we'll carry on. And eventually, and I had to go and fetch this, it landed on the other desk over there. I've got that little clip off, and hopefully now the whole switch should come apart. That's the hope. There's a spring there. That's the actual button, which is a bit scratched up now. And yeah, and there you go, that is what was causing the locking. And the switch to stick, I would think. Blobs of Noah locks that are now acting like adhesive. So I'm going to give this a good clean up with a cloth. I'm not going to put anything like Noah locks back on it. I'm not convinced of the value of the stuff myself, because it does tend to go gunky, and if you're using it in components like this sort of thing, which are obviously not the sort of thing you want to drop to bits every day to give it a clean, I think it causes more trouble than it solves, Noah locks sometimes. So I'm just going to give this a damn good clean. So this is just a really, really fine wet and dry paper. The button, the switch had actually worn unevenly. It wasn't actually giving me misfires, but I got the feeling it wasn't that far away, so I'm just like flattening that out a bit without taking too much metal off. Obviously I need the thing to reach the battery, but given the design of the device, I don't think I'm going to have too much worries if I take a little bit off just to even that up, and obviously that'll give me a nice clean electrical contact as well now. So the spring, so now I've got to, I also wet and dried just the edge of this where it had got scratched up from both my attempts and somebody else's previous attempts to dismantle the switch. So yeah, it's just cosmetic really. I've just given that a little sanding down. Right, so that's the switch broken down into its component parts. I've given everything a good clean, and I think, you know, it should make good contact, so we shouldn't have bits of metal sticking together anymore, which would affect the way the switch operates. So I think it's time to put it back together, probably. So I think I know how that happens. Spring goes on that brass pin like that. That's the locking mechanism for the switch, and I can tell straight away that that's moving a lot more easily than it was, and that's the main reason I've done this, is that was annoying me. We got that bit assembled, shove the switch in with the spring, and that's the way the switch is going to work, hopefully. Now somehow I've got to get this cap back on. This clip needs to go back on there somehow, which could be interesting. So I think basically I'm just going to try and force it on with my fingernails, because that would be ace if that would work. It's almost there, but not quite. And I think I've just understood how that switch got so badly scratched up before, actually. How that contact, it was putting this clip back on. So somebody's been in here previously, I think. My fingernail isn't strong enough. It's got to be a screwdriver. Here we go. It's back on. It seems functional. The threads are all moving a lot more easily than they were. This is starting to look like a result. And shove that in there. I wet and dried that very slightly. Didn't want to take too much off because it does perform a function. But I'll press that in there, and that should be, hopefully, a functioning switch. I think that might need pushing down a bit more as well, so let's use something blunt and make sure that dowel ring is all the way in. So I've been using it with the 18650 tube, but I also got it with a 14500 tube and an 18350 tube. So I happen to have an 18650 battery here, so that's what I'm going to put this together with. One thing that is slightly unusual about this is, and that is a bit gunked up actually, I've just noticed, is that the spring here is at the positive pin end. Which made me wonder at first whether you should put your battery in upside down. So this is your ATI connector, but I decided not to bother, and that seems to work just fine. So spring at the top, not at the switch end, which is a little unusual, and that's caked up in something horrible as well. So maybe we should have a look and see what we can do with this. This is probably juice seepage that has caused this, I don't know. There's a little grub screw there that's evil. And then the spring. Down inside the 510 atomizer connector, once you've taken out the little grub screw that makes the positive contact, there is a little piece of nylon inside. Which is screwed in by the looks of things, so I'm going to leave it there, because if I disturb that, then the device isn't going to work anymore. So I'm just going to clean it in situ. That's absolutely caked up with juice or something. And like I say, I don't have any spare parts at all, so for this, so I'm going to do my best to clean it up. Now I must stress that the device is working, and it's working just fine. The reason that I decided to do this was partly to understand how it all fits together, because I like to understand those things, but and partly because of the switch. The locking mechanism on the switch was becoming a pain. I'm just doing this now as I'm in here. Right, so I've given that a good clean. Scraped most of that black stuff off it, which I think was juice. It smells like some kind of fruity flavoured juice. And giving it generally just giving it a bit of a clean up. I mean, this build up can't have been helping the electrical contact. So I'm glad I looked in here just to see what needed doing. So I have to say, when it comes to maintenance, the GP Paps is not the easiest mod that I've seen. Drop that back in. Okay, and there's nothing to stop that going all the way through that grub screw. So we just, I'm pretty sure it was sitting about flush, but we can adjust that as we need to. Okay, so we've pretty much taken every part of the Paps apart now. We've got a nice, clean, new functioning switch, hopefully, which we're about to try. We've even given the top cap and the positive contact a good clean up. So let's get a battery in it. Let's get the top cap back on. That seems a lot smoother than it was. Yeah. Let's get an atomizer on it, see if it works. So I'll put the Fagatti on the top, and I think you would agree that that looks the biz. I wanted this mod specifically to go with the Fagatti, and hopefully now you can see why. Isn't that wonderful? And with the option of the 18500 and the 18350 size modes, I think we've got something that could be perfect here. Switch is now working fine, I hope, but we're just going to test that. Working fine. I have some criticisms of the GP Paps. That switch mechanism, and I think this is the version 1, and there is a version 2. So I'm guessing that maybe they're hoping that they've improved that switch mechanism a bit, because if it's going to get bunged up, if it's going to need a clean, then that was way too much hassle to drop it apart. If I compare it to some of my other sort of quality mods, then you rarely need more than a screwdriver to totally take the thing apart, give it a clean, put it back together. That was a real faff. Simple things like if they'd used an actual external circlip or something like that, so you could get the pliers in. And in fact, I may well replace that clip with an external circlip if next time I'm in a hardware shop. I might see if I can pick one up. One other slight criticism, I suppose, is because of the way the bottom switch is really sensitive, which is a really good thing. If I want to operate it, I mean, it really is the lightest of touches. Look. But you can't stand it on the desk without using the locking ring, and that's what was driving. You need to slacken that off so you can put it down, and that's why it was driving me mad, because it's not an occasional thing that you use that locking switch. If you want to put it down at all to pick up your cup of coffee or your beer or whatever, you've got to lock the switch. In the car, pain in the ass, because I couldn't just drop it in the cup holder like I do with, I don't know, for example, the Silver Bullet. But that said, I can put up with that if the mechanism is working right, and it seems to be now. So overall, I'm very pleased, very pleased with the GP Paps. It remains, in fact, it is the only true 22mm mod that I can use with my Fagatti, because the only other 22mm mod I've got is the GGTS, and I don't yet have a stealth cap or a fitting that I can put on the top so I can use it with a regular assy. I think I can call that quest complete. Job done. It'll do nicely. Thanks for watching. Ah, I am back on. It's the first time running with some of this hardware. You've got to forgive me the odd cock up. But yeah, that worked well. I saw some of the comments there in chat about using isopropyl or other alcohols to clean it through. This was pretty gunked up. I also wanted to get a bit of sandpaper on the end of the negative contact there as well, just to make sure I was getting a good connection. To be honest with you, it was an investment of half an hour of my time or something. That included filming it, and now that is just silky smooth. I didn't bother putting any lube on in the end. The threads are good enough. It doesn't need it. So it's time for us to take a second break now, after which we'll be joined by Tim. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
iVaper and iVaper Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's iVaper.co.uk and iVaper-elixir.co.uk. iVaper and iVaper-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of VaporTrails.tv.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
And I've done it again. I've got two pictures of me, Tim. I can see you, but nobody else can, because this has lost the network again. Wonderful. Ah, here we go. It's seen fit to give me a network connection back again, but it doesn't work. This is quite bad.
Oh dear.
Bear with me. That's better. I control the switch with the iPad, but every now and then the iPad decides it's going to stop talking to the network, because it's like that. So then I have to go and reconnect it and blah 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 blah. So, but you're on now. You're on. How are you, mate?
Okay, I'm fine. Absolutely fine, mate. A bit chilly, but it's always like that down south.
Have you been doing anything for Mother's Day?
Yes, been to see Mum. Been to see the mother-in-law. Cooked the wife breakfast because my son was asleep, so I did his bit for him. Yeah, it's been a pretty eventful day, you know.
Yeah. I know how that goes. Trust me. But anyway, and you skived off last week, I noticed.
I did. Yeah. Family commitments. They pop up every now and again. So.
Well, it's
I'd rather be freezing in the garage and drinking beer and talking to you, Dave.
Well, I'm sure, especially the drinking beer bit.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Well, we had a couple of little things that we were going to run through tonight, didn't we? And we've got plenty of time. You know, we don't have to race through. But I'm going to start with, I'm going to ask you about something that you mentioned to me earlier. And in a past episode, you mentioned a couple of times that you've had stories coming from the school.
Yeah.
So
always from school.
There's always stories from the school, and one of those stories was the kids were getting hold of vaping gear and marking it up and selling it behind the bike sheds, and also that people were using them in classrooms and stuff, using e-cigs and stuff like that. Was it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the kids were just popping them out in class and having a puff. But now I've had one of the local teachers in. And that's all been stopped now.
Right.
They've introduced the rules. I mean, it was such a grey area. They didn't really know what to do with it because it wasn't really... It's not like letting fireworks off in the desk and lighting a cigarette or anything, so they weren't quite sure what to do with it. But now they've decided that the kids can't use them at school, in the playground, in the lessons. So if they're going to use them, they've got to go behind the bike sheds again, like it used to be. So it's all back to square one. But on the flip side of it all, the good thing about it is the teachers have decided that they're allowed to use them in the staff room. So the teachers are now vaping in the staff room, which is very sensible.
That is good. That is good news. And so in the way, I guess, well, in my day, they used to ignore certain areas of the playground when you were having a fag and what have you. So I guess it sounds like they're doing the same sort of thing with kids using e-cigs.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all gone back to how it used to be and how it always was and how it should be.
Right.
So that's looking really quite good. The kids are still flogging their own juices that they're making. One lad's turned into a bit of a manufacturer. His father's bought him lots of weird and wonderful flavours, and he's knocking stuff up. But I have been told that it's not a nicotine-containing juice.
Okay.
It's just pretty much an e-shisha style flavoured juice, because I was a little bit concerned about kids with syringes and nicotine and various other things.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just a shisha. That's what's going around there now. So it's
okay.
It's a bit of fun, I think, and very enterprising.
Indeed. Now, so I guess that's a positive story, really. Especially, I particularly like the bit where they've decided to carry on using him in the staff room. It smacks of common sense coming from that school.
Yeah, it does.
Unfortunately, there's another company in your area that doesn't look like they're being quite so tolerant and sensible.
Yes, indeed. The local councils have had their refuse collection out for tender in recent times, and the new company is taking over in April. And a lot of the guys are regular vapers, and they've been allowed to vape in the dust carts, any council vehicle pretty much, and also use them whilst they're working on the streets, emptying the bins in the towns and things like that. Well, the new company has given them an induction this week, and one of the things that came up was that it was their policy that there was no vaping allowed in the vehicles, no vaping allowed whilst emptying the bins on the street, along with no smoking as well. So, I mean, basically there's a total blanket policy on no smoking, no vaping. And when they were asked on what grounds that they were banning the vaping, they were just said, it's our policy. So that's all they've said. And they're taking over Rother Council, Wealdon Council, Eastbourne Borough Council. So it's quite a wide area.
Right, so they've come prepared with this policy in place then, by the sounds of things. That's not great, is it?
They have.
That's so. Is it anybody organising a revolt, or are they?
Well, I've had a couple of pals of mine that work for the Eastbourne Borough Council on the phone saying, what can we do about it? And I've basically said to them, they've got to ask them what grounds. I mean, they've really got to come up with some reason for it. I mean, I can understand it. I can understand the Wetherspoons thing. It's like, we don't want our staff to have to police in case someone's smoking a real cigarette. I can understand that in a busy pub, but in the cab of a dust cart, trotting around the town emptying dustbins, I don't see that that's a problem. I mean, it's not going to be confused with smoking in that way.
Well, no, so absolutely.
They need to come up with something a little bit concrete and explain to their guys why they're doing it. They're being challenged. I mean, a couple of my friends have, as I say, spoken to me. I've come back to them, and they're now challenging the management basically, tomorrow. So it will be something that I can pick up again.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to hear how they get on, because it sounds as though that they've arrived with a policy. You're never quite sure, are you? They might have bumped into somebody who said, "What are you doing? You can't do that." I mean, have they just informed everybody of this, or is it just come through one or two people? Or
it was actually at an induction meeting for some of the drivers.
Okay.
Because the drivers themselves said, "Well, don't worry, we don't actually smoke, any of us now. We're all vapors now. Oh, you're not going to be doing that either, because that's policy not to use electronic vapor cigarettes as well." So it's sort of a blanket thing. If it looks like a fag or produces vapor, then you can't use it.
I wonder what on earth their rationale is for that.
Well, considering their clients are the local borough councils, where most people who work in the council offices and vape are allowed to vape at their desks.
Yeah,
I find that very interesting.
Yeah, but I guess they've outsourced this, and this is the private company that's bringing that rule in. Yeah, well, I hope the guys get some sense and get a reversal of that, because it does sound totally daft to me. And those guys spend most of their time outside.
I'll find out in the week what's going on, and we can pick up again on it. And I mean, I don't even know what the company's called, and I live in the borough. But I mean, if I knew what the company was called, I'd do a research
name
myself.
and shame them. Why not? Absolutely. Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to just get your feedback on was something that I just picked up just this evening, actually, on UK Vapors, and it was actually a thread started by our very own Gary Dibley, who was asking, what people would like to see for a vape fest this year. And Wayne, organiser of the preceding two vape fests, he organised 2011 and 2012 with the committee, posted a cryptic comment on UK Vapors that said there will be an announcement in a few days' time. So I don't know any sort of inside information whatsoever, but I thought it'd be fun to speculate.
Yeah, I think it will be fun to speculate, because I mean, if there's a vape fest going on and there's an announcement, I shall be booking holiday very quickly.
Right, that sounds good to me. I have absolutely no clue what they've got in mind, but the comments suggest that they are thinking about something. There's a thread on UK Vapors. I don't know if there's anything being said on any of the other forums, because I simply haven't had a chance to check.
No.
But if you seek that thread out, there's half a chance that over the next few days some details will emerge. Reminds me as well, you were organising a meet yourself, weren't you?
Yep, that's still in its very early stages, but it's going to be in the Eastbourne area,
right?
Without a shadow of a doubt. We've just got to find a venue. It'll be promoted through the stores as well as the usual channels on the forums, the radio.
When were you looking at running that ish?
Sorry?
When were you looking at running it, or ish?
We're looking summertime. So
yeah,
before the kids break up for their summer holes, so we don't lose people off on their jollies. But
it does sound quite tempting, actually. I haven't been down to that neck of the woods for a long time.
I can get you a crack in doing a hotel up the road, so it's all right.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. It's only £200 for me.
That's right. Yeah. And $350 for your cameras.
Oh yeah, the cameras would definitely be there. I should mention as well, the Midlands mini meet is starting to take shape, and we're looking, hopefully, don't get booking any hotels or anything yet, but at the last Saturday in May, that's what we're looking at currently. Subject to confirmation. But the details.
Is that going to be a ticket? Is that going to be a ticket event?
It will be a ticket event. Yeah. It's the only way reliably I found. I don't know whether it's Tamworth or what, but it's the only way to make sure you don't end up with twice as many people as the venue can handle turning up and getting you all banned. So,
yeah, right.
And I've seen that a couple of times now.
Yeah.
So it would be ticket only, but there would be an incentive for the ticket. The ticket would be good value for money. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I never run it at a profit or anything like that. In fact, it normally ends up costing me money somehow. I don't know why that works, but okay. I'll come to Eastbourne in the summer.
Yeah,
that'd
cool.
be nice.
No,
that'd be good.
We'll do that.
So
I will keep you informed. We're going to have a bit of a chat about it on Tuesday night. We're going to meet on Tuesday night. So
okay,
we'll
cool.
get a bit more by next week.
That'd be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Are you making it to any of the meets this weekend?
No, unfortunately.
A bit of a trek, isn't it?
It's a bit of a trek. If I lived a bit closer, I definitely would. I mean, we're gonna have a little trek around on Wednesday just for the National Non-Smoking Day. We're going to go pub vaping.
Oh, is that Wednesday? Is it?
Yeah, it's Wednesday. It's 13th Non-Smoking Day. So we're gonna do a bit of vaping around some of the pubs in town on Wednesday nights.
Right.
You know, just to sort of promote our wares, as it were.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. And right, okay. Oh, that's pretty much everything that was on my list. I don't know if you've got anything else you wanted to give us an update.
I'm trying to get you one of these.
The E-roll, yes.
Yes, they're out of stock at the moment. From where I would get them from.
Don't
anyway.
they know who I am?
So.
Sorry, I couldn't resist that.
Yeah, but it's a fab little thing. So.
Right, well, there is actually one thing that I meant to run just before we wrap up. If you hang around for a minute, Tim, this only runs for about a minute, and I'm just using my clever little mini keyboard here. Well, I'm trying. There we go. I just want to run this little trailer. This is what's coming up on VTTV this week. And welcome back. And another message that I need to get across as well. There's two actually. The first one is that on Wednesday and Thursday when we did those improvised shows while Dave was incapacitated, or more to the point his studio was, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Kat, who did so much work behind the scenes to make sure that we got all the titles and all the VT and all the video stuff in line, so that we could put those shows out on Wednesday and Thursday, and she wasn't on screen to get the credit for it. So I just want to rectify that wrong and say thank you to Kat. The other message I've got to get across, and we're now struggling for time. This is the way these things go, Tim. What I'll do is I shall go full screen. If indeed this tech will work for me, I'm going to go like that, and then onto there. There we go. So they can still hear you. So if you want to like sort of heckle or anything, it isn't pointless. Vaportrails.tv, forum.vaportrails.tv is the forum that we've just sort of revamped and not really relaunched. But we're promoting it a bit more than we have done in the past. If you want to come and talk to us about the show, whether it be technical difficulties or suggestions for things you'd like to see on Vapor Trails TV, then come and let us know. Also on Facebook at facebook.com/Vapor Trails TV. Daz and Sav have done amazing work on that page. They're keeping it current. By tomorrow morning, there'll be sort of excerpts and snippets and pictures from this show. Even, you know, they're doing a fantastic job of keeping that up to date and keeping it fresh. So get along and like it. It'll be good. And we've run out of time. In fact, I think we may even have run over. In fact, I can just about, in the distance on one of those monitors, read the comment, "Oi, check the time." So bye, Tim. We're going.
Cheerio.
Closing credits, closing credits. Good night, everybody, and thanks for watching.